Yeah, I got a lot of things to gripe about today. Not saying I should spend the rest of my life griping and complaining, but good heavens. Kind of just tired of how the world works. A little bit high on here. Give people a few minutes to jump on. There's Sonia. Hey, right away. Got one. At least I know one person watched the show today. Well, Hugh's on there already. Hugh saw his name on there. I saw maybe. Title of this one is Humiliation. So with Hugh. But I'm on here because first I want to start talking about how I'm just sick of how the world works, and especially how churches work. Tired of going to churches where you try to explain truth to people and they are not interested in hearing it. So what I mean tonight is I want to talk a lot about Hugh's story, but before I get into that, I want to tell you I tried to talk to a guest speaker today at church who lives in Detroit, right in the center of the entire story we're going to talk about. That's cool, Jeremiah. Right in the middle of the story we're going to be talking about, and this guy lives right in the middle of it in Detroit. And when I tried to discuss the story of Hugh with him, he didn't get it. And you could see that he didn't have a heart to understand, and it didn't pique his interest. All he could see was the programming that was put in his brain. Oh, conspiracy theory. I could see the words flashing in front of his eyes, even though he didn't say it, because we're programmed, brainwashed to not hear or understand any truth. And that's not by accident. This is how the CIA hides the truth, is they take reality and they completely... hey, Joey Stewart. Hey, good to see you, Joey. And Khaleder and Adrian and Jeremiah, everybody. Sonia, it's good to see you all here. Joey, by the way, he's like a genius when it comes to numbers. So I like watching Joey Stewart stuff. Some of the stuff I might say today might be some of his stuff. I use his stuff all the time. He gives me like half of the pictures. And he and Jonathan Basie give me half of the pictures I have in my files. And of course, Joey discovers a lot of it. So he's a smart guy. And I like to hang around smart people. I tell you, that's why I do this. It's like I get around a lot of people that can explain in a lot of things and help me discover the reality of the world. Yeah, back at you, Joey. So, and what do I mean? Okay, I get online after trying to discuss the reality of Hugh's story to somebody who lives in Detroit, who's a pastor in Detroit right now. And he doesn't see it at all. He does not understand the reality of what happened to our country. I'm not going to get into the story just yet because I'm still leading up to it, but I will. We're going to talk about it the majority of this time I have here. And I understand, I see in his eyes a programming, the words just coming across his face, conspiracy theory. That's all he can think, because that is how the CIA has taken the truth and reality of what has happened in our country and has twisted it in the minds of people. And you ever try to talk to anyone about the truth and that's the only thing they can say? Oh, you must be a conspiracy theorist. No, because I'm going to talk about a lot of things here that are not conspiracy, things we have eyewitness testimony for, things I can prove mathematically. But here, let me put it where the rubber meets the road and why it really matters the most to me, because I don't like to live just in the hypothetical. I like to live in reality. I get online here today, and you know what I see is I see a message from my friend in Pakistan. And she did the tear emoji, and she said, we were attacked by Muslims in Pakistan today, and probably in her hometown. She, I'm sure she'll come back on later, and we'll probably discuss it, and I'll find out the details later. I literally just saw it right before I was about to broadcast, and she wasn't online, so I didn't talk to her right just now. But I saw the message. I said, this is the reality of the world, and what are we doing in church? We go and we sing a song or two or three, take an offering. A guy gives us a message that anybody could give if you've ever read the Bible at least once, every single time. And I understand sometimes people do come up with some cool things once in a while and you learn something. But by and large, it's just common sense preaching that anybody could say or do. And we go home. Nobody ever spends any of their time or effort helping anyone there. We never divest our energy of our church time into actually putting together a program and a plan to go out and help people. And in fact, sometimes I have tried to tell people, both online and at church and in my Sunday school class, listen, there's this girl over in Pakistan. She lives in a Christian village, and she's like, or not a village, a city, and it's the only Christian city in Pakistan. They're surrounded by terrorists and Muslims that hate them on all sides. They get attacked and bombed in their city regularly. The police have no respect for anyone who's not Muslim, so they'll come and they'll just take people at will. They take thousands of kids out of the city to molest and to torture every year out of the city. Christian kids just disappear literally by the thousands in this city. And it's terrifying. Listen, this is not me trying to say, toot my own horn and say, look at the good works I did. I don't care about my good works as far as bragging on them. But this girl, she needed a surgery. And at first I was thinking like the United States. I'm like, I don't know if I can help you. I said, and then I said, how much is your surgery? Thinking it's going to be thousands of dollars like the US. And she goes, oh, $40. And so I sent her $40 so she could get a freaking back surgery, because that's how much different it is over there. And we as people in the United States could help these people a lot. But when you mention it in Sunday school class, when you mention it online and try to get people to help, there's actually one person online right now that has helped, but I'm telling you, like, nobody else does. And they get mad at you, and they lambast you for even just, is that a word? They get mad at you, and they say things like, how dare you question where we put our money? I'm not questioning. I'm giving you a need, and you put it down. And I'm telling you how people really are. Not my needs. I'm telling you how people are in the real world. I've verified it by sending a missionary to her house, okay? I have a ministry, a Christian ministry that's online that I used to send the money to them and then bring it to her. But after enough times of them going back and forth, I've verified it. This is a real person. This is not somebody scamming my money. And I'll verify it for you. I'll give you the contacts if you want to help these people. And yet I've had one person so far decide they wanted help. That's how distant we are. That's how crazy we are in the Christian churches today. No understanding. And it bothers me deeply, because I'm like, I want to help you so bad, but I can't. I got to take care of my family. I can only do so much. And it really, really bothers me. How do I get anybody to pay attention, to help and see the real needs of the world? When all we do is we go to church and we sing songs and we try to even mention reality. Nobody wants to talk about it. They get that stupid smirk on their face like I saw tonight when I tried to talk to the guy about the reality of pedophilia, and its hub is in his city, and he didn't understand the value of my conversation, and that ticks me off. I'm sorry. It ticks me off royally. Because we're so programmed. We don't understand the nature of reality. All we do is waste our time at church. We sing stupid songs, and they're not stupid songs. Songs are good. They really are. Okay, but but sing a song and then freaking spend your time learning how to help people, present the needs of the world, and do something to help them, and quit wasting our freaking time in church. Sick of it. Yes, it bothers me that much. Yeah, it sounds like preaching tonight. I guess it does, because I'm sick of how we do things. Sick of the nonsense. I'm sick of just going and doing the same thing for decades. Nothing ever changes. I'm sick of seeing the people who are hurting and we do nothing to help them. I'm sick of it. You want to help somebody, you come talk to me, I'll tell you. I'll tell you people you can help right now. You can send them money directly. It never has to touch me at all, okay? I'll show you how to contact them personally. You can verify them yourself and make sure, because that might take a little effort and a little work, okay? You might have to send somebody to their house if you want to, okay, to verify it, like I did, because I don't want my money going to scammers, okay? I get that. But we got our Christian brethren over in the rest of the world. They've already got churches and ministries. How about if we support them instead of spend 4 years giving money to a missionary, okay, who has to learn the language first, and who in the first year he goes over there, one of his kids gets sick and he has to come back home to America. And that happens over and over and over. And every few years, they have to come home on furlough. You know, there's churches in most of the countries in the world. And if you're in some place that doesn't have a church, I understand. Send a missionary. But the vast majority of the places on earth today have some sort of Christian church. Give them your money directly, or give the money straight to the people who need the help, and quit wasting frickin' time and energy and just help people. And that's why when I try to tell the truth of Hugh, which we're going to get into, I promise you, he's right in the middle of what happened to this country in the 60s. He's the truth of the whole pedophilia network, which is freaking centered in Detroit. And I had a pastor from Detroit today in my church who couldn't see the value of that. Who gave that stupid smirk of, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, when I tried to explain it to him from the bottom of my heart. After I waited for the whole line of everybody else to talk to him, he couldn't see it. Yes, I'm a little mad. Because people are programmed. We never learned the truth about anything. Let's start with a little bit of truth here, okay? This right here, this is a Greek New Testament, okay? I'm not lying to you when I say this. I took Greek class, okay? I can use this with the help of a lexicon and pull a lot from it. And I can tell you that the words in this Greek New Testament, from which the King James Bible was translated, is full of numbers, okay? It is a numerical system. This is not just a book. Letters were numbers in the Bible, because in the ancient languages, all letters were numbers. This is not going to be exclusively a gematria lesson, but I am going to start with it. Every single word in here, every single letter in this book in Greek, because Greek letters also double as numbers, okay? Every letter is a number in this book. Every single one of them. This is a Greek New Testament, and every letter is a number in Greek. Do you understand that? Can you contemplate what's going on here for a second? Okay. Let me give you an example of something you might understand on my board here, okay? Every one of you probably has a Visa card. Look at this. This is 3 languages. Let me move my camera a little bit. All right, this is 3 languages right here. This is not a coincidence, okay? Most of you have learned Roman numerals in school. VI, V is 5. I is 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. Okay? Now it changes languages. We're going to use 3 ancient languages. You see, letters are numbers, and this is Latin, okay? In Latin. Roman numerals, letters are numbers. This one is Greek. Greek, okay? This one is Greek. It's the sigma, the letter S. Sigma has a value in Greek gematria of 6. You probably see where I'm going with this. Well, you say, what's the A? The A comes from the Chaldean, I guess would be the right word, system. The base 6 system. This is why we have feet and inches today. It's a base 6 system, okay? That's why, 12 is a divisor. That's not the right word. You can divide 12 by 6 evenly. It's based on the base 6 system, okay? This is why we have miles, and we're using that ancient system and stuff instead of the metric system, because gematria is so important to the founders of our country. Okay, seriously, that's why we have it. Okay? And because it's a base 6 system, the first letter of the alphabet is going to start with a value of 6. This is what your Visa card says in 3 ancient languages. Do you understand? It's simple, right? But how much time do we learn about the numbers in this system in our church? 0. Okay, I've gone to church since I was born, literally, since the nursery. Okay, still go, went today. But how much time have we learned about the numbers in the book? 0. But they all mean something. They're all really, really important. You're probably wondering why I have 13 and 18 up here. Well, go to Revelations chapter 13, verse 18. All right? Now, if I show you Revelations 13, 18, I probably have it marked here. Yeah. Probably can't see it because my camera resolution is probably not that good, but if you see it right down in here, okay, those are 3 Greek letters, and it has a sigma in it, okay? Revelations 13, 18 is these 3 letters, okay? That's it. You know, in your English Bible, it says 603 score and 6 or whatever, right? But in Greek, it just says that. Those 3 letters. That's all said. I just showed it to you, but you probably can't see it because I don't have the greatest resolution. Okay? That's telling you right there. There's your sigma right there. Okay? This letter right here. Okay? That's telling you that ancient languages have value because all it says in the Greek is just the value of the letters right there. And there's your 666. There's proof. Okay? And why did they put it in chapter 13, verse 18? Well, let's multiply it and find out. 8 times 3, 24. 8, 9, 10. 104, 3 and 1. 4, 3, 2. 234. That's an incredibly important number. Why? Because they use the concept of mirroring in numerology. Joey Stewart knows all this already. I know that. And I'm probably going to miss half of the stuff that he knows. Believe me, he'll be thinking, why didn't you say that? So by all means, go to Joey Stewart's page and you'll learn a ton. Look at this. You see the mirror? Okay, you just mirror. You do the opposite. 4, 3, 2. 6, 6, 6. You see what's going on there? That's why it's in there. How much time, when's the last time you heard that in church? You didn't, did you? 0 times, right? But it's true, so why don't we talk about it? That's one thing that I think a lot of people can see and understand, but your whole Bible's like that, okay? Do you understand we can go through the whole Bible like that? Why did the disciples catch 153 fish? Well, there's a whole reason for it, because Vesica Pisces equals 53. It's not a coincidence that Hugh was born in 53 either. Believe me, that's going to tie in a lot of ways. But we're not quite to that just yet. Why is it that both Sunday school and church is the exact same thing? Okay, you go and you have a person and you might sing a song or you might eat a cupcake in Sunday school. That's the only difference. And all they do is they teach a lesson that anybody could say from common sense if you've ever read your Bible at least once. And that's what we do for years and years and years, and we don't spend our time actually taking that time to get together, share each other's burdens. I mean, they might take a prayer request real fast, but God heavens help you. God help you if you actually tried to start talking. Everybody laugh at you like, why are you taking so much time? But we spend 0 time really sharing our burdens in our hearts and maybe even developing each other's knowledge. Like, imagine how much of this stuff I could teach our Sunday school class, but they won't hear it. You know, they don't have no heart. I've tried to mention it to a few. We got a mathematician, okay, it teaches college level math, who's much smarter than me. But when I try to, tell him how pi is related to the human form, he can't hear it. You know, he has blinders on. An old man, very smart man. You know, but he has, pi and phi and how it's all related to the human form, and he can't see it. And he's not interested. He's not interested in hearing it. He don't want to hear it. He looks at me with that stupid look like, what kind of conspiracy theorist are you? But your whole body is made that way. But he has no propensity for hearing truth or anything or applying it to reality. And and these are good people, the best people. Like I would set them beside anybody, and these are the people I'd much rather be around than anybody else in my community. I promise you that. On the way home, I'm riding home, and there's thump 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 thump, some moron riding beside me, with the big loud music. I see. Well, we live in a small town, and it's just overloaded with homeless people and drug addicts and all this. And you're just looking at them like, oh my gosh, there's no knowledge in the land. There's no understanding. And what are our churches doing? They're not teaching or preaching any of it, hardly. Only the periphery, only very lightly. And they're not spending any of their time trying to help these poor people because they don't know anything themselves and don't have any propensity to hear it themselves any more than that moron driving down the road going boom, 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 with a bunch of stupid loud music because that's as smart as he can be. Probably heading towards some girl's house to fight with her. You know, it's like, that's so ridiculous. This is the world that we live in, and it's hard to drive from point A to point B if you have any common sense without just wanting to throw something. And I live in that state constantly because I'm aware of what's going on around me, and most people aren't. And yes, I have screwed up before plenty of times, mainly because I gave up because I felt like I was the only one. You ever watch that show? What was it? Omega, Will Smith, and he's something Omega or something. He's like the last person on earth. You ever feel like that person? You know, I mean, I know literally it's not. And I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anybody else by any stretch of the imagination, but I promise you, if you try to tell people truth, you will feel like you are the last person on earth. Straight is the gate and narrow the way that leadeth to life, and few there be that find it. I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. You know, I mean, there's not very many people who go down the road of truth. There's not very many people who are interested in truth. We want to hear that the rapture is going to happen, and there's, you know, and yes, the word rapture is not even in the Bible. Okay, I know, I understand. It's, you know, it's a raptura is Latin and blah blah blah, but okay, that's not what the Bible means. We could go through that in Revelations and explain that another time, and I have made videos on that in the past, that the Bible is not telling you that you're going to get whisked away right before the most important time on earth, right about the time when the testimony of Christ is going to be needed more than any other time. Think about how stupid that idea is, and think about how many communists, how many Chinese people, when the communists took over, Christians were eliminated because they all felt that the rapture was going to happen, and that could never happen to them. Millions and millions of Christians died because they believed that nonsense. Stop it. There's no rapture coming to take you away right before tribulation happens. Jesus said, if you follow me, you will suffer tribulation. And in that very chapter, he was talking about the great tribulation of Revelation. How much clearer can he be? For heaven's sakes, look at the people right now, the people that you ignore because you're waiting on a rapture, okay? Like the person I'm talking to over in Pakistan right now who barely has food, but you don't care. You don't want to help her. No, you'll just say, I'd rather spend my money on something else. My own brother, oh, it ticks me off. I only help Americans, and I understand his ship was bombed, okay? I get it, over there in Yemen, but you understand these are the same people attacking her as attacked him on his boat. No, I don't help people over there. What, are they less human than you? What, are they the scum of the earth? You understand they're made in the image of God just like you? Stinking son of a gun. Yeah, I'm ticked off. I'm ticked off of seeing all the horror in my land. Not just here, but around the world. And horror that's happening. And I'd help a Muslim too if I could prove he was true and in need and not scamming me. I absolutely would. And I would take the time to learn. But you know what? I make freaking minimum wage, so I help as much as I can. And I'd help more if I could. Just barely over minimum wage. And I say with sorrow in my heart when I talk to her, I don't know when I can help you next time. Every single person deserves the dignity of being treated like a human being, even if they are earth. You understand that? Everybody on earth deserves that dignity. That's the example of Jesus Christ. That's the example that Christ truly gave us in the Bible, to treat other people who are made in the image of God like they are made in the image of God, even if they don't deserve it. That's what the crucifixion was all about. You understand that? It wasn't so you can go play church. It wasn't so you can go there and waste your freaking time singing a couple songs and just getting together and hearing a lesson that anybody 10 years old or older can make, if they've ever read the Bible at least once. I was preaching Revelations when I was 14 years old at a Methodist church. Okay, 14 years old, better than, and yes, I didn't understand it the way I know it now, and I believed the rapture. Okay, but when I was 14 years old, I was preaching that better than most of the people I hear preach it today. I had wrong ideas back then about it, but like most of the people I know today. Okay, you can understand this stuff with any amount of common sense if you've read it. and certainly the way they preach it. And that's all we do with our time. When's the last time you even learned? Why won't they deal with truth? Why won't they deal with this? Here you go. Here's the Apocrypha. Okay. 14 books they took out of the Bible. Okay. And they're not canonical. Okay. I understand that. And I know why they're not. Except for one of them. One of them, I'm not sure why it, honestly. I have to go do some more research. Okay. But why don't they talk about it? Why don't they explain it? I'll tell you what, there's some really amazing history in it. I'll tell you that. How about like the book of Esdras that tells you when in 720, when the 11 tribes were dissipated under Nebuchadnezzar, it says that they went to Babylon, went down a river, and a great time, I think a year later, they landed in a new land. Think about what the possibilities that could be. And it's no wonder we see all these mounds over in America that are full of Jewish symbols. Most of them have been raised, but we have evidence of them. So why we find the 10 Commandments in burial mounds that you call Hopewell Indian mounds, okay? There's some truth in this stuff, but we don't teach it. We don't explain history as it really was. We have no concept of reality. And we're still going to get to Hugh. I haven't even started on Hugh yet, okay? We're getting there. Hugh's on here. Listen to me, folks. That you look on the comments and look for Hugh Squires on there. Okay, this guy was in the middle of the biggest freaking scandal in our country, right in the middle of the pedophile ring that freaking runs the world, from the Catholic Pope to the Queen of England. Okay, he was captured by them, to a whole bunch of governors and their families that captured him, raped him as a 4-year-old boy. Okay, you should listen to that. That's right in the middle. He has a personal eyewitness testimony of who the names are of the freaking people who are responsible for this. And it was the same guy, okay, the same people with the same gun who killed Jimmy Hoffa that killed JFK. The same gun anyway. I don't know if it's the same guy. Okay. Hugh's held that gun before. He ran a worldwide publishing company. Watch his videos and learn from him. The CIA has destroyed his story and credibility and taken everything from him. It's one of those riches to rags story. Okay. And no, I didn't believe him at first either. The very first time I heard him, I said, you know, like any reasonable person, how can anybody have all these connections? And then I started looking at all the connections and drawing all and asking him and talking to him. He'll talk to you. Okay. He'll video chat with you if you really want to know and you're not just being a prick. He'll talk to you. Okay. He'll tell you his story because he wants it out, because they've taken everything and killed 4 of his wives. You think that matters? You think there should be some justice? Listen, all these crazy theories that are real conspiracy theories, like flat Earth, like UFOs and all this stuff. The reason that stuff exists is because it was a lot of the pedophile networks that created this through the CIA to hide this truth of what happened to Kennedy and what happened at 9/11. 9/11 happened because of the man on my chat right now, at least partly, okay? I'm not saying it's the entire thing, but it's at least partly. George Bush, you can watch his video, calls him out by name. He says all the huge structures are falling down because he had a slip of the tongue. He meant to say huge structures. Because all of Hugh's trademarks, okay, his trademarks and his receipts and all that were in the World Trade Centers in the Pentagon right after he was testifying in Congress, okay, before the Senate of how they stole his worldwide trademark in his publishing company. So they destroyed that because it was worth many, many billions of dollars, and to get all that back from all the people that stole it would freaking bankrupt the country almost. So they blew it up. Do you understand? That's what 9/11 was about. It wasn't about freaking UFOs, okay? It wasn't about Saddam Hussein. That was a lie. It was all nonsense. It was all garbage. That's why you never saw the body of bin Laden. That's why they killed the people who went over and said they killed bin Laden. Maybe they did kill bin Laden. That's why the next day they were all dead in a helicopter, okay? Most of them. And why you have that clown who's on Fox News all the time saying he's the one that killed him. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but he's on purposely hiding the truth. That's why you never saw the body, for heaven's sakes. The man in the cave had nothing to do with it. George Bush did. Okay? George Bush, who ran the CIA. Remember the first George Bush? You know, he was the CIA director. Remember that? Well, we learn about this book right here that's still canon in some books, in some Bibles in the world. It never got taken out. I'm not saying it's necessarily canon. When we talk about this, First Enoch, that's some interesting story. You want to learn about the giants, and I'm not saying it necessarily is or isn't, but there's definitely something in it that needs to be read and explained in church to people, okay? By the way, how do we determine the canon? Why do we just automatically say, okay, Constantine at Nicaea in 325 had any more right to determine what is canon than we do today? Oh, yeah, silence, right? What, was Constantine a god because he was the Roman emperor? You're still subject to the Roman emperor 1700 years later? Really? The dictates of the Roman emperor from a civilization that passed out of existence, well, if you count the Byzantine Empire in 1453, when it was taken over by the Ottomans, that disappeared at least 500 years ago from an edict that happened in 325 by the Roman emperor. You're going to go by that? What made him so special? He had battles to fight, and most of the country was converted to Christianity at the time, so he decided he needed some more people in his army. It wasn't advantageous to try to kill half the people, 3/4 of the people in your kingdom when most of them are Christian now. So he said, maybe I can use this to my advantage. That's what happened. You know, I mean, he had wars to fight. He didn't really care about the religion of the empire so much. He cared about getting people loyal to him, and if it turned out that more people were Christians that would be loyal to him than the other way around, he'd go that way. So he wasn't baptized till, you know, he's on his deathbed, you know. He was never a true convert. You know, it's all nonsense. It's all lies. We talk about this book right here, the Book of Jasher. I understand that it's probably a medieval forgery, but it's definitely based on some knowledge that if you take the time to learn anything, okay, if you take the time to learn anything, you'd know that he has to be quoting from ancient Jewish sources, because he didn't just pull that out of his butt, okay? He has to be learning this from either, what do you call that, the Talmud. I think he's getting a lot of this from the Talmud. He must have had access to it, because he's using a lot of the gematria numbers when he talks about, you know, Abraham appointing 72 people. Let's see if I can find my notes here real quick. I write them in the top when I go through it. Oh, I saw them a second ago when I was flipping through, but I'll probably pass it. But, you know, he uses 72 and 70. I've done videos on the number 72 and 70 in the past before I even had this book. 72 men of Haran converted to the Lord and went with Abraham. Where was the 70 in here? And this thing's all full of numbers. I mean, all full of gematria. So I know it has to almost definitely come from the Talmud, because the Jews use this like crazy. That's why all your movies are full of gematria. 70 angels before God confounded the languages. And I've done videos on 72 and 70 and how important that number is. That's why you don't think the Jewish nation, that Israel's running the world right now. Why did we have 70 people celebrating the end of World War I gathered around the Arc de Triomphe this year? Why 70? There's a lot more leaders there's a lot more presidents and prime ministers in the world than 70. There's at least 200 and, I don't know, 75 countries or something like that, 272 countries, something to that effect. And only 70 of them were invited. Why the number 70? Why is that so important? You know, Jesus chose 70 disciples after Mount Hermon, after the Mount of Transfiguration. Okay, which, by the way, is talked about in, you know, oh, I'm sorry, not that one, in Enoch. Okay. Why is Mount Hermon on 33 degrees north and 33 degrees west? You know, 33 degrees of masonry, and that's where the angels came down, you know. Oh my gosh, I'm so sick that we don't learn anything ever, and we never talk about it. And we waste our time living in this fantasy world that there's going to be a rapture and Jesus is going to pull us away right before the worst time, so we never really focus on the real needs here and now. sick of it. I'm sick of how Hugh can't get anybody to listen to his story, okay? Hugh has, I already explained the story somewhat. I'm going to go into it in a whole lot more detail here in a minute, but I gave you the extremely summarized version, and you're going to tell me that we as Christians shouldn't be proclaiming that story in every church service? That we're gonna keep saying that George Bush was a good guy in Sunday school, Greg? I mean, come on. I almost threw something through the window when I heard that. Oh my gosh, what a freaking evil son of a gun George Bush is. You don't believe me? Talk to Hugh, okay? Hugh will give you details and names, okay? These people lead pedophile networks. These people are occultists. Joe Biden, the reason he's called Biden is not an accident. He's bi, okay? You get it? It may or may not even be his real name. A lot of these people take fake names because they're trash. They're human scum. We have no obligation to vote for them in either party because they're dirtbags. George Bush planned and orchestrated 9/11 because his dad was president at the JFK assassination. He was orchestrating the same people who took the guy in the chat room right now, Hugh Squires. George Bush was president, the same place that took him captive and raped him in a basement and chained him to a toilet and killed who knows how many more people up in Oakland County, Michigan, little kids. You want to learn the truth of who George Bush really is? Are you sure you want to know? It'll destroy your view of the Republican Party. You know, the Republican Party that under George Bush took the star. It took the star that was like this on the elephant, and now it's like this. I can't do it upside down. There it is. Then this little Baphomet symbol. And we're going to say we're going to support that. They did the satanic star, the witch star. Go look at the Republican elephant. They turned all the stars upside down. You just think it's coincidence that it happened under the first George Bush? I'm tired of living in a fake reality. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of seeing all the needs in the world and nobody does anything. We pretend to play church and sing a couple songs. And when you try to actually mention anything that's real, they look at you like you're a freaking out of space alien. Sick of it. I'm sick of we don't actually help people that really need help around the world. That we just waste our time and our energy and our resources. Now, I don't have very many resources, but I'll give what I can. I'll do what I can to help people. I'll expose Hugh's story until they kill me, and they might. I don't know. I hope they don't. And you should be too. How dare I say what somebody else should be doing? Yeah, maybe. Look, if truth stirs you in your heart, if you can see the reality of what I'm saying, and even if you don't understand all the pieces but are willing to look into it, do so. I'm not pulling your leg. I do research. I do a lot of research. Look, here's my notes I made in the last 6 months on things. Since I started, okay? That's personal effort. You see these books? I haven't read every single word of them, but I've read them mostly. Okay. I read the Bible the first time when I was 13, for heaven's sakes. The first time. Nobody told me. Well, I guess there were preachers saying you need to read your Bible, so I can't say nobody told me, but I felt it into my heart that if you're going to be a Christian, maybe you should read the Bible. It's got to make sense, right? For heaven's sake, somebody told me about this book right here. Okay, this is the guy this is why we know about the gematria right now, because this guy taught people about it. If you're not a Mason, Masons already know about it. Jews already know about it. Okay, some Masons, not very many. Rosicrucians, Jesuits, they use that gematria all the time. That guy, Manly P. Hall, he wrote about it in that book. And that kind of got the movement going here recently about exposing gematria. But no, gematria didn't start here 5 years ago or when he wrote this book. He was exposing a bunch of ancient secrets. So learn things like that. It's called The Secret Teachings of All Ages, okay? Yeah, he's exposing the occult, okay? He believes it. I'm not saying become an occultist. I'm saying learn some things in your life, for heaven's sakes. Might understand why George Bush turned the star upside down. to a witch's star, to a Baphomet symbol, you might start learning what the star actually means. Okay? and it's only because they use it that way. It doesn't have to be that way. It's the same angles this way as this way. Okay, it's the same dimensions. Phi is encoded on a star. Okay, the number 72 that we were just talking about is on the star. It's these I think it's these angles. I have to look at it again. So where was I? Let's talk about some more 666 stuff real quick, because I mentioned Revelations 13:18, and 13 times 18 is 234, which mirrored and doubled is 666. Okay, and that's all through the Bible, like that. Like the value of Lord Jesus Christ in English. Okay, it's 495. I have Joey Stewart on here, so I love to mention this when I have Joey Stewart on here because he discovered this. Okay, and where's my original Luna Square? Oh, I don't know. Where's the original? I have the. Okay, you take a Luna magic square. It talks about the moon, and I have demonstrated this enough times now that if you've watched my videos in the past, you're probably like, "Oh my gosh, he's doing this again." But it's fascinating to me because Joey discovered it. I mean, it's and it was meant to be discovered, and it's freaking obvious, and you'll see why. Okay, here's some history you won't learn about in your church. Okay. But I guarantee you, it's definitely 100% true. It was meant to be done like this. There's magic squares where the rows and the columns have to come to a certain sum, okay? You kind of are familiar with this with the game Sudoku, okay? It's something like that. Well, in the Luna magic square, the one based on the moon, Luna, like lunar, okay? Each row and each column has to equal 369. Okay, well, when you take each of these numbers, and I don't have the chart in front of me without going through my notes and spending too much time looking for it, because I've got thousands of pictures now, so it's like takes a while to find it. But I know I have it in there. But let's say this number was 12 or whatever, and you had to take 1 plus 2 is 3. That's called reduction. Okay, a very common, very well understood numerological principle. Okay. It's called reduction. You just take anything that's double digits, add it together until it's a single digit. Well, he does that, and what you end up with is you end up with a pattern like this. Okay? 495, 495, 495. And that's freaking amazing because that's the reduced value of Lord Jesus Christ in English using the English cipher that King James used to translate the King James Bible. But you didn't learn about that in Sunday school, did you? You didn't learn that there was any gematria value of anything in the King James Bible. Because, I just showed you how when I did Revelations 13:18, okay, when I just showed you that, I showed you how the Greek is, the letters are numbers, okay? Showed you that. Okay, well, King James was a Mason. He understood. Okay, Hugh is distantly related to him. He calls him his cousin, but he doesn't mean first cousin. I discovered that when talking to Hugh. Hugh uses the word cousin a little more loosely than the rest of us do. He has a lot of cousins, the Queen of England and all that. He's literally, now his actual uncle was, who's the guy that went to Antarctica? Dang it, Hugh, I can't think of his name all of a sudden. Admiral Byrd. So his uncle was Admiral Byrd, and that's an actual uncle. But then he'll say, like, my cousin was Queen Elizabeth. Well, Admiral Byrd has that lineage where he's related to the queens and kings of England. So through him, he's related through to the kings and queens. Well, here you got 495. Well, the value of Lord Jesus Christ reduced in the English language is 495, and this is why Washington D.C. has Interstate 495 going around it. That is not a coincidence, okay? They know this stuff. They understand this knowledge, okay? Oh, heavens. 666 knowledge. So this is all related, okay? It's all related. Because the value of 666 is in the value of Jesus Christ. You notice it says in Revelations 13:18, Byrd and Buckminster Fuller are both my uncles. Yeah, so you look up Buckminster Fuller. I did once, but it's not at the top of my head because I'm thinking of something else right now. But it's in my Hugh notes. I'll have to change subjects for a second to get back my brain into that. But I'm still getting to Hugh's story, okay? I will. I'm going to get into it more and his murdered wives and all that. I got all this thought out in my head. So stay tuned, folks, because you're going to learn some amazing things if you haven't already. But hopefully you have if you're paying attention. Okay, so... Oh, yeah, the value of Lord Jesus Christ in the septenary cipher. Here's the septenary cipher. I got this from Marty Leeds, and this is why you can't throw somebody out. This is his handle. I don't think it's his real name, but he goes by Marty Leeds. Okay, on YouTube. The guy's a flat earther, okay, and the world is not flat. It is not. I'm sorry, it is not. I've proven that. With just your common sense proves that, okay? There's thousands and tens of thousands of satellites at this point in orbit, going around the world. We know the world's not flat. It's utterly ridiculous. I'm sorry. I love you all. If you believe in flat earth, you're going down a rabbit trail. Please come out of that, because you know that is literally some of the deception that's being done to take people away from learning about the reality of what happened to John Kennedy and so forth, okay? Because those are all CIA. I'm convinced that those kind of ideas were started by the CIA to occupy your time, okay? I'm totally convinced of that. Well, but Marty Leeds, he talks about so throw out his flat earth theory, but he does talk about the septenary cipher, which is where I originally learned about it, okay? And it's just based in Genesis, so it's really simple, you know? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And it's just based on the 7 days of the week in Genesis. This is what your King James Bible was translated on. 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay. So if you use this cipher, you should write this down. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Grab a piece of paper and a pen. Write down the cipher. Okay? You should keep this in your notes. If you don't want to, or you can just go to gematrinator.com. Okay, and that cipher's on there. It's under either other or foreign. Let me look real quick. I forget, but I have it open. So let's see, calculator. I'll tell you real quick. If you go to gematrinator.com and you open up ciphers, it's under other. So yeah, tools, calculator, and then go to other and hit septenary, and you'll see it. Okay, so you know more than one person knows about this. Okay, Marty Leeds ain't the only person. You know, he didn't make the cipher. He didn't make the gematrinator calculator. A guy named Derek did. Derek did a great decode for me on the murder of Jalea Davis, by the way, which helps me show beyond any doubt that it was a contrived murder here in our neighborhood. Hugh knows a lot about murders. He was literally just shot at just a few days ago, okay? He's got a serial killer on his page. He pointed him out to me. I'm telling you, and the serial killer is most likely related to the pedo gangs that have been following him around his whole life. This is why you guys need to get the truth out. If it's just me and I'm the only one, all you people listening to me right now, and I'm the only one that tells the story, you know, that makes me a target. But if a million people do it, if you reach critical mass, like an atomic explosion to where there's nothing they can do about it, okay, that's what we need. We need every one of you to pull your britches up, get some courage, learn some truth, learn about Hugh, and tell his story. And tell it far and wide. It's the truth of what happened to your country. Do you care about that? That's why we had the 60s revolution. We had a bunch of pedophiles take over the frickin' government, and they're still in charge. Quit voting for them and start exposing them. Quit singing Onward Christian Soldiers and then cowering in your bunker and being afraid to say anything. Not even having the courage to learn in most cases. Being afraid to tell other people the truth. Being afraid to take the time and effort it takes to learn this stuff that I'm teaching you right now. And by the way, if you want a lot more links, I can tell you a lot more people that can teach you a lot of things. But definitely talk to Hugh about his story. That has to get out. But if you want to understand this kind of knowledge, I can point you to a bunch of people that explain this stuff too. Okay? Well, you use this cipher, and this is what King James used, the 33rd degree Mason, who was killed, I think, 58 days after his 58th birthday. Freemasonry equals 58, okay? Well, anyway, That's what Zach says all the time. So I got that from him. But anyway, you just use this cipher and you can translate, you can understand what the English version of the Bible is trying to say. Except that they changed some things, and we need to discuss it in church, so we need to understand and learn why. Because sometimes things will be the sun in the Greek Bible under its gematria, and then it's compared to the moon in the. But I don't know. It has the sun and the moon, so I'm not sure. There's all kinds of ways you can interpret that, and it needs to be talked about in church. We need to understand what really happened to our Bible. Do you think that's kind of important as Christians that are known as the people of the book by the Muslims, by the way? We're the people of the book. They have the Quran, but they call us the people of the book. But and have since Muhammad. It's in the Quran, not to don't argue with the people of the book. We're the people of the book, us and the Jews. I mean, we're supposed to be the people of the book, but we don't talk about how the book is really made and where it came from. We never do. Never. Ever. Don't you think it's time for this kind of stuff to change? Don't you think? Do you think it's time we start learning some stuff about reality? Let's go into Hugh's story now. All right. Hugh told me to watch this show right here, Stranger Than Fiction. And I did. And I promise you, and that has Will Ferrell, the guy from Elf, on it. Watch that movie sometime. I promise you that it is a amazing depiction of Hugh's life. And by the way, he was a publisher. He knows half of the cast personally. And I think, Hugh, did they not tell you that they made this kind of to reflect your story? So it might actually be a very true to life, that they intentionally made it to tell your story? So anyway, you're going to want to know this story because it is about a guy whose life is being narrated, and the narrators create what happens to him in his life. And Hugh has had this go on, since his trademark bottom line. I'll write that out for you so you don't forget. That was his publishing trademark. Okay, that's what was stolen. And it was stolen in pieces, a bit at a time, through a bunch of music groups and entertainment groups kind of just took it and used it, okay? And they would mark him in his songs, like, haha, there's nothing you can do about it kind of thing. Always marking and mirroring his life, okay? In their music, okay? They talk about his music all the time. And they use his words. And this was a word that was not in the dictionary, so it could be a legal trademark, okay? Up until, I think, 1980, I think it was, that it was put into the dictionary in order to hide the truth of what they did. Because they stole it, because it was worth billions of dollars, okay? No joke. And it was this information and the receipts from Bottom Line that was in the World Trade Centers when George Bush, the guy whose dad killed Kennedy, not pulled the trigger, but helped orchestrate it through the pedophile networks, through the CIA, okay? And blame Lee Harvey Oswald, who had absolutely nothing to do with it. But in fact, it was one of the pedophiles that took Hugh hostage as a 4-year-old and raped him in the basement that actually walked Walker. His name is Walker. He always says this, how you remember it. Walker walked Lee Harvey Oswald into the gun that killed him. Okay. And it was Father O'Donnell, who was a priest up there in Michigan, where Detroit area, where Hugh was from, that testified against Lee Harvey Oswald. Put it together. Do you see what's going on? There's a pedophile network framing somebody, used by the CIA to kill Kennedy and to frame Lee Harvey Oswald and then kill him before he could testify. Does that make sense? You understand? Well, anyway, in the 60s and 70s, they were still in his trademark. Now, at some point, a guy named Fletcher Nebel gets involved. Okay, and you have to understand, Hugh's story is huge. Okay, it's huge. So I called it Humiliation was the title of this show today. Here's how many notes I have from. This is just notes of what I've just talking to Hugh. Okay, All right. I got a lot of notes, but I have to say, his story is huge, and I don't get it perfectly. So if I say it wrong, feel free to correct me, Hugh, okay? Because I don't get it perfectly. But Fletcher Nebels was one of the people who stole the bottom line trademark, okay? And look at this. You don't think this is true? Look at this guy. I looked this up on my own. Hugh didn't even tell me this part, okay? I looked this up on my own. Fletcher Nebel, let me write his name out. Get this. He was born on 10/1. 1911. Does that look familiar to anybody? 10/1. What happened on 10/1? The Las Vegas shooting. And you know what? Hugh was at Las Vegas, what, like the day before, or maybe even the same day, right before they did that shooting. When you talk about stranger than fiction, that's stranger than fiction right there. Okay, that's crazy. Look at this. 9/11. Does that sound familiar? Hopefully it does. You lived in this country very long. And 10/1. Look at that. You have the Las Vegas shooting where Hugh was. You have 9/11 where his trademark was. I found that. I looked it up. When Hugh tells you your story, you look things up and you go, oh my gosh, he's telling the truth. And he died 2/26/93. Now, 2/26, this is where you have to understand a little bit of gematria, and stuff like this helps you understand things, okay? Because one away from a number means the same thing. So this is the same thing as 227, okay? Which is pi. 22 divided by 7 is 3.14. The media loves to use pi. They love to use pi, and this is why this is probably made up propaganda. These numbers, I almost guarantee you, are fake and put there by the CIA to mark Hugh's life. I guarantee it, okay? I guarantee you, because it marks it so well. Okay, there's no other explanation. Pi, the media uses this all the time. Let me give you the illustration that I use every time. Our newspaper, the Parkersburg News and Sentinel, which also makes the Marietta Times for the local nearby city. In fact, I used to take him from the Parkersburg News up to the Marietta Times. So 2 newspapers, News and Sentinel, Marietta Times. They talked about a local murder of Jalea Davis, a case that I, through gematria, have shown was definitely, and the guy who made that gematrinator calculator helped me decipher, is definitely a murder. Okay? Definitely ritualistic. They freaking folded the clothes and put them on the guardrail. They printed her story and things about her on March 14, 314, and on the 227th day of the year in both articles. I mean, both papers, okay? And that's not coincidence. They're marking that they know what happened. You get that? Is that hard to understand? Now look at this. So they did pi. The CIA made this guy's birth and death date on Wikipedia because they're changing it all the freaking time. Okay? In 93, like Flight 93. Well, that marks Hugh in about 3 different ways. Hugh's sister, I think it was born in the field where Flight 93 crashed. Back in 1957, his twin brother's body was dumped in that same field. You see what I'm saying? Because he was also captured and tortured and raped the same way Hugh was. This is the reality of what's going on in your country. Don't tell me you don't want to know. Don't tell me you're too stupid to understand it. Please don't say you've zoned me out at this point. This is the reality. This is what your government does in this country. It runs a freaking pedophile network, and we have no business voting for the clowns and pretending like the Republican Party is so much better. No, they're part of the pedophile network. Joe Biden, the Democrat, they're just as guilty. It's not coincidence they call him Joe Biden. Okay, he's bi. All right. Let's erase this. All right. I want to talk a little bit about Hugh's wives as best I can. And Hugh, feel free to correct anything I say wrong, because I do get things wrong. I do have notes, but you know, I mean, I don't want to screw it up too bad here. Now, his first wife's name was Nancy Fredericks. You know, like, if you forget, think of Fredericks of Hollywood, okay? And that is related, okay? Because Hugh is related to a whole lot of famous people. All right, and that's why he has all these connections. That's why he literally had the guitar that Chuck Berry gave to Elvis. Okay, and you see him playing it. Okay, you go look on his page, and he'll have to send you a friend request, because the CIA, every time he changes it to open, then the CIA goes and changes it back. Okay, or FBI or somebody changes it back. So he has to send you a friend request. Okay, if you want to be Hugh's friend, tell me, and I'll tell you, and he'll accept your friendship. You know, unless you're just there to troll or something, don't do that. But if you're sincere, let me know, and we'll get you on there. But also, I post his videos all the time. Well, anyway, Nancy Fredericks was the first heart transplant case in New York. Okay, so that's pretty important. But I'll have to. Okay, I don't have on here where she was murdered, so you might have to fill me in on that one again. Okay. The second one, first name's Mary. I don't have the last name because she's still alive. Okay, she was not murdered. The second one. Hugh is hiding her story a little bit so she doesn't end up dead. Okay, literally. Okay, she's still alive and practices witchcraft. Okay. So I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, except I'll generalize it as best I can. She's related to the person who killed Jimmy Hoffa. This was Hugh's wife. Okay. And Jimmy Hoffa is buried on the property that they owned. So I have to be careful how I word that. I don't want to say too much. Okay. And I have narrowed it down to within 4 properties, because I'm pretty sure Hugh knows exactly where it is, but doesn't want to tell me too much, because he doesn't want me to go up there and do something stupid or something, or get somebody killed or something. And I don't blame him. But common sense, I can narrow it down to about 4 properties where Jimmy Hoffa is buried, because it was on his farm. And it's not a farm anymore. It's like, I won't even tell you. If he wants to tell you, he can. All right. His third wife. So this one's still living, okay? And Mary Fredericks was murdered, right? She was murdered in Michigan on the day Trump let the Bundys out of prison. There we go. See, I need to add that to my notes. Okay, and I'll try to remember that later. So the third wife, and actually she was fiance, not wife yet, was Victoria Milan. Okay, so she was killed. And for heaven's sakes, wouldn't you want, if you had a bunch of wives murdered and fiancés, wouldn't you want people to tell your story? But he broadcasts what happened on net, and I seen it just yesterday, or yesterday, the other day. You know, he broadcasts it right there on their Facebook pages of like CBS and NBC and, you know, and all these, and tells them what happened, but they will not interview him. Okay, they will not tell the story. And if you think that's something, look at the pictures of him with the Coast to Coast people and the Ancient Aliens guy. Okay, the Ancient Aliens guy, Giorgio Tsoukalos. Okay, he wouldn't tell the story. He just wouldn't do it. And probably because he's scared, because George B. Wells, the third person voice on Coast to Coast AM, if you've ever listened to that, I used to listen to it every night when I deliver papers. Okay, well, George B. Wells, his I think he had one interview with Hugh and was fired immediately. Then you go to Jim Mars, the other conspiracy guy, another picture that Hugh has of him, was going to write his book. Okay, and he was murdered. Okay, it's not coincidence. I'm telling you the truth, man. This is serious information, and you need to get this out to heal our country. What happened here, and the pedophiles that killed Kennedy that are still in the government today, their story needs to get out. And these women that were killed, their story needs to be told by the same freaking pedophile network. Okay, Victoria Milan she had multiple sclerosis or muscular dystrophy. She had one of those two, but she got to where she couldn't talk. And she was in a hospital. And she was sodomized by this pedophile network while on her hospital bed and tortured for a number of days. Okay. And I think she was the one that was born in the field where Flight 93 crashed, like we were talking about Fletcher Nebel. Okay. And how the CIA most likely fraudulently put up his birth and death dates to reflect this knowledge, to mock Hugh, to mock what happened to his trademark. Okay. And what happened to his life and his wives. And this is the journalist from CBS, correspondent, whose friends' names were last names Slater, Perry, and Cook. So Slater, Mary, and Cook were related to Obama's press secretary, not related, but like connected to Obama's press secretary. Yeah. And they tortured her in her bed and killed her and cut her ears off and called Hugh on the phone while they were killing her. How sick is that? You see why you should help get this story out? You've got to tell the truth about what's happening. This is crazy, and there's no justice. Well, you be the justice. I'm talking to every single one of you who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, or who will. You be the justice. Tell the frickin' truth. Do something valuable with your time. Look this stuff up. She was dead in the hospital. Then there was another one, Terry Ann Heath Olson. Did I say that right? Terry Ann Heath Olson. And this was a fiance. And I know you have all kinds of questions, folks. I know. I get it. All kinds of questions, that you're thinking, how's this possible, But start looking into it as much as possible. Start talking to them. And Hugh, when they ask you questions, try to keep it simple, because if you go on too many rabbit trails, my friend, people lose easy. But just try to, your history is so big and so deep, it's hard to sort out for people that aren't used to living like that. Because most of us have never had anything like this happen in our lives, So try to just keep it where they can understand it if they're willing to talk to you about it. Now when she was murdered on July 4th, which is Hugh's birthday, 2003, and Victoria was murdered 31, 2011. That date's important too, but we'll talk about that another time. Okay, and she was murdered on July 4th on his birthday. Yeah, he's actually born on July 4th. What are the chances, right? That's she was murdered in Tennessee and hung on her dog's leash. And this is the same lady, you want to look her up. She's the one that created the Head Start program for Ronald Reagan. Okay? I told you, he's got a lot of connections, okay? Related to a lot of famous people. He had a girlfriend in high school named Sandra Locke, which I don't think she was murdered, was she? But that's a famous name. So what they do is the CIA, to cover up his stories, they take elements of his life, okay, and they make a movie about it. So you get an actress named Sandra Locke who marries Clint Eastwood. I think I said that right. And Hugh will correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, 30. No, there is no 31st. Halloween's on the 30th. 10/30. There we go. Thank you. That's what I had wrote down. For some reason, I put 11 instead of 10. Okay. And 1, because Halloween only has October only has 30 days. Okay. And then Nancy Lavoie was one of your wives, but I don't have a murder date for her. This was a high school girlfriend. I don't think she was murdered. But Nancy Lavoie was. Hugh, do you have a date for her when she was... All I have is she was murdered when they let the Bundys out of prison. So, but think about this. This guy's story is big. And the connections go further and further. If I tell you too much, you'll just start going, oh, this can't be possible. But I think I've told you enough that if you really want to know the truth, you will find it. Yeah, she was murdered and dismembered on the day that Trump let the Bundys out of jail. What? So that was recently. That was in, if Trump let the Bundys out of jail, then this had to have been since 2016, I guess. So this was recent. So, you know, what kind of person do you have to be? Yeah, 2016 or so. Okay. I'll even write that down. Now, what kind of a person do you have to be, for one, not to have enough compassion to say this story needs to get out? The justice needs to be done. You know? We're just going to go back to church and just play church all the time. You know, sing some songs and shake hands. And I don't say anything that's wrong in and of itself, but for heaven's sakes, this is the reality of what's going on in your country. Don't you care? Don't you want to get the truth out? Shouldn't we be doing things like actually helping people like you? Like my friend in Pakistan, who I have verified. I had a freaking cousin ticks me off, mock me for, you know, makes a ton of money, you know, ton of money in the medical field. Won't give you your name or nothing. Her husband makes a ton of money. You know, mocking me for being so stupid as to help people in Pakistan. You know, my brother, you know, I ain't giving no money to Arabs, you know, that kind of crap. Isn't it time we start caring about people? Isn't it time we start having compassion? Isn't it time we start telling the truth and try to fix our world? Isn't it time we actually open up the conversation at our churches instead of just have scripted sermons that, you know, any 10-year-old could do, you know? And anybody that's read their Bible a few times, you know, and Sunday school lessons that do the same thing. And I understand sometimes people come up with some good stuff. I get it. I don't mean it's always that way. We had a great pastor. He was smarter than most, gave us a lot of good sermons. But I'm just saying, by and large, I've been to most churches, and most of them don't say anything worth listening to, really. You know, I mean, I won't say doesn't have value. They're just not saying. I mean, they are telling the truth as far as, you know, the history of Christ and all that. But you know, it's not. If you've read the Bible, you already know that. So it's like, what's the point? You know, I mean, how many times say the same thing over and over and over again, and never take that knowledge and go help people with it? What's the point of the gospel if it's not to make the world a better place? And how do we say that we proclaim the gospel if we won't give an ear to people like Hugh? Who do we think we are? Oh, Hugh, I have a huge list of 44s, man. The number 44 is related to your life in so many ways. You know, what kind of people are we if we're not going to take compassion? And listen, if you want to help my friend in Pakistan, you're more than welcome to verify her or whatever you need to do first. I get it. I did the same thing. Okay. Contact me. For heaven's sakes, I'll hook you up. You can send her the money directly. I don't need to have any of the money. Okay. This isn't about me. Okay. Just help her. For heaven's sakes. I was able to buy her an operation on her back that she desperately needed, but I can't buy her medicine. So now she's in pain. My mom just had a back surgery, and I heaven forbid that she wouldn't be able to have the medicines that she needs because the pain is atrocious. But I make minimum wage, you know? If you want to help people, I can I can show you. You can give them money directly. You don't have to go through me. Help people. Use your Christianity to do something besides shake hands at church, for heaven's sakes. Let's try to get people at church to realize maybe we could do something more with our time. Like instead of just singing songs and shaking hands, maybe we could all talk and try to find. Yeah, Hugh says I need a criminal justice attorney. If there's one of you that are smart enough to be able to do that, I don't know. I can't do that. I need somebody smarter than me and with more contacts. I'm a nobody. But if some of you are able or know how to do that, help find Hugh an attorney. They murdered it. Yeah, they murdered his first attorney that was helping Victoria Milan. Okay, and you got to tell this guy he better watch his back when he helps. Okay, get some, get some security or something. Okay, he was just shot at by these same people the other day. Told a story while he's driving down the road. They're still after him. And he's had his home broken into multiple times. Okay, he's in a little bit of a safer place now, but I'm not sure if it was the same pedophile networks or the CIA that was breaking into your house. I'm not even sure at this point. Yeah. I don't even like to say the words that you have to put up, Hugh, because it's that awful what happened to you. And we live in this world where nobody gives a crap, and I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? It's like, if I don't control my emotions, I'll probably lose it. This is the kind of stuff that, and it's hard because how does this stuff go on? And when you just even try to mention it in church, they act like you're a freaking conspiracy theorist and you have no freaking clue what's going on. And I'm not saying that other people don't help anybody ever. I know that. But why do we waste so much time at church? Why don't we get together and use that time not only to help each other and to share, actually take the time to actually tell our life story and try to get each other to help each other. Okay. Why don't we have like they did in the book of Acts, this person helped this person, and the disciples said, listen, we have to preach the gospel. We can't just serve tables. So they appointed people to help do that. But we don't do anything like that. We don't have a group of people that are just dedicated to helping the people in our church or anything. And I don't even know a church that does. It's plainly written in Acts that that's what they did. I mean, and there's nothing wrong. And yeah, there needs to be some people who are preaching the gospel too, and other people who are, able to. You have to have the full picture. It's no good to preach it if you don't practice it. And so if the churches are built and the church isn't built on a structure to practice it, rather than just constantly preach it, once you've preached it, you don't have to constantly preach it over and over and over again. You preach it, the people get it. If they have questions, they ask you. Okay, we'll live it then after that. Quit doing this Catholic format that came from the Middle Ages and from Roman Catholicism, where you have a priest who's the only person who can come between you and God and stands up and gives a sermon every Sunday. That's not how they did it in the New Testament. They preached, and they had the church was a gathering of people that helped each other after that. Totally different than what we have today. Why don't we have get a list? Old widow lady needs her grass cut on Thursday nights. I'll cut some grass for somebody. I got ticked off because there was an old widow lady next door to me when I first moved here. She's dead now, but guy was charging her $25 a week to come cut her grass, $100 a month, taking advantage of a poor little old widow lady. I said, look, it'd take me 15 minutes to cut your grass. Don't even worry about it. Oh, I got to give you something. No, you don't. That's, and then we should be doing stuff like that at church. Just help people, for heaven's sakes. Find the people around the world who are truly suffering and identify them in church. And let's find ways to help them. Quit sending hundreds of thousands of dollars to missionaries when there's already churches in most of those countries. And let's just send the money straight to the people and help them. Why should it be that a missionary has to take 4, 5, 6, even 7 years sometimes of constantly getting that donation money to learn a language when you've got thousands of people that already speak the language and already have a church in those countries, but they just need help? I'm not saying you can't occasionally fly somebody over if they're a little off on some doctrine or something, or whatever, or you can talk to them live on the internet. Do you not understand the world you're living in now? Why do we never change anything in church or adapt with the times? It's ridiculous the kind of world we live in. Utterly ridiculous. No common sense, no reality, no concern or compassion for the people who really need our help. This is why I like my church. I love all the people in our church. They're great people, but I can't tithe. I can't do it because we have $1 million gym and there's people around the world that don't eat. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I'd rather give up the gym before I see that and I have people saying, listen, we don't eat this week if you don't send me $10. And there are people who send me those requests and I don't have $10 because I can't help the whole world, but I know some of you could. And yeah, you could verify them and make sure they're not scammers. There's ways of doing that. There are exceptions where you have to send missionaries in the world because there are no Christian ministries and no churches. There are exceptions, but there's not very many anymore because they've been doing it for the last 2,000 years. You understand? Most of these countries have churches. And those ones that do, you don't need to send more missionaries. You need to support the people who are there and have them send missionaries. They'll be more successful and they don't have to spend 7 years learning a language. You understand? What is this world where everybody you talk to is so freaking disconnected from reality? I don't want to live in it anymore. I swear. That's why I got so depressed for a while. And I went the really bad direction in my life for a while. Because like you're walking around and you're disconnected from, everybody's disconnected from reality. And how do you live like that forever? Yeah, Hugh, all he's ever seen in his life is all the churches he's ever been to are raping children are awful. And I've been to a church up there in Hammond, Indiana, where they did that kind of crap. Okay, and we got out of it. All right. So I understand exactly what he's talking about. But the vast majority of churches I've been to, the people have been good, decent people. Okay. And of course, I've lived in rural, West Virginia, the hills and Southern Ohio and stuff like that. Most of the churches I've ever been to in my life, the people were very good, decent people. Okay. Hugh can't hardly fathom that because he's never seen it. I mean, his life is full of being in ministries where it was just full of pedophilia and crap. And I feel for him. I really do. Shouldn't be that way. And I've been to one that was, that ministry I went up to there in Chicago that started going that direction, after I left it. I mean, it may have been going on while I was there. I don't know. But, I've talked about that before. It was basically turning into a Baptist cult. And not a good thing. So, well, I don't know. I can just beat this horse to death, but I think I've said it enough now. I have a strong heartbeat. I used to be incredibly, incredibly passionate about the gospel, about Christ, but then you see that like you're the only one. A lot of times you go out and then you talk to people about the truth and they don't, and I'm talking about even Christians don't want to hear it. It's like you can't build anything. They want nothing to do with you because you're not the popular person in the church or whatever. Oh, you're welcome, Hugh. It's my pleasure. I think the most important thing is to be connected to reality, Hugh, and your story is real. Even if somebody doesn't believe every last thing you say, Hugh, and there will be some people like that, well, I don't know about this or that, maybe you're making it. Believe the story about the dead wives, and for heaven's sakes, get the truth out about that and the pedophilia networks. For heaven's sakes, get the truth out about Kennedy, and about George Bush, Get the truth out about 9/11. Tell the truth of what happened in our country. Yeah. Unsolved murders for all these decades. Okay. How does that happen? Well, it's because the CIA cuts him off, and when he tries to go report it, you know, somebody at the attorney's office gets a message or ends up dead, you know? And so they're told not to help. You know, you can't find, or, you know, like John B. Wells gives a story and gets fired the next day. It's insane. Yeah, and the bodies are freaking dumped on his property. He's had a bunch of kids dumped on his property. You understand? Becca, what are you doing? You downstairs? You gonna tell me I'm done? I need to come downstairs now? That's my wife got on there. I spent too long. She's like, come downstairs, spend time with me. I don't blame her. I'm almost done. I've been on here for an hour and a half, dear. I'll be down shortly. I got about all the griping out of my system I can gripe. So I've been doing it for an hour and a half. Listen, I'm going to end with this. If you want to know Hugh's story, please tell me, or message Hugh or something, private message if you can, if it'll let you, or let me know. We'll get you in contact, and he'll tell you a story, and you can watch his videos, okay? Sorry, Earl, I've been out for an hour and a half. I'm closing right now, buddy. Earl always seems to come in at the last moment, poor guy. But don't worry, you can always go back and watch it. If I ever get this up on Bow and Arrow on YouTube, then please like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube channel, and spread this. If you can't do anything else, for heaven's sakes, yeah, Hugh already has all the videos, okay, on his Facebook profile. You have to go under the pictures to find them. And my mom was trying to find him the other day. She couldn't find him. And I said, well, you got to go under the pictures. So that's how you find him. Just wondering what was up. I'll just making my videos, you know, like I do, hon. Griping a lot today. I'll be down here shortly. So, yeah, I work here in my attic. That sound you hear is my air conditioner, because it gets to, like, it was 96 degrees when I first came up here. I got an air conditioner right beside me, but it's down to 79 now. It's been running for an hour and a half. Gets hot up here. Earl, Rich, how's Rich doing? Rich doesn't talk to me much because I exposed Hugh's truth, and I found Hugh on Daily Dose of Gematria on his page, and Hugh was going to completely dismiss, Rich was going to completely dismiss Hugh altogether. And actually, I found through his friend Amy. Amy Screws is her last name. So I got in touch with Hugh through Amy. And Rich is kind of mad because I wanted to tell Hugh's story anyway. I guess. That's as best I can tell. He's afraid of what might happen if he exposes Hugh's story too much and that kind of thing. So, but that's why all of you that are listening need to do it. It can't just be one person. You know, you need to reach critical mass with this story to where it just explodes, and you know, there's no stopping it. You know, and that needs to be the truth. Of we need to have compassion and care about what happened. We need to care about people. We need to care about people here like Hugh, okay? We need to care about people around the world. If you want to help, there's one person on here that's already helped. You know, I don't expect him to help again. I get it. He's already helped this person. There's one person in the chat that already has. If anybody else wants to help, remember, you don't have to send money to me. I'll give you, if you don't want to. You can do it that way if you want. I don't care. But if you want to send it straight to her, she needs help, okay? She's suffering in a country. Her town got bombed today by Muslims, okay? You understand how horrible that is? You understand what a terrible life that's got to be like? And it happens all the time in her city. The police just drag people out all the time. Thousands of kids go missing every year in their city and are literally taken captive by the Taliban. How can you not care about people like that? If you want to help them, I will get you in contact. Just please message me. The last 10 times I've done this, nobody did. Except, well, one person did. One person did, and he's in the chat now. I won't point him out. Okay, one person helped. You know, are you going to close your heart too? It's up to you. But I don't have a right to anybody's money, and I don't know if you're already helping 50 people. I have no idea. There's no judgment from me to you. So, All right. Well, I'm going to get off here. See ya.